see the screen? Yes. Hare Krishna, welcome. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalparubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Is the mic on?
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yesterday was a very special day. It was the day when the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. How many of you here have never heard about Bhagavad Gita? Probably it's the wrong question. How many of you have not at least read even a little bit of Bhagavad Gita? It's a very new thing for you. Okay, I'm just trying to see whether. All right. So Bhagavad Gita is a preeminent book of spiritual knowledge coming from the eastern part of the world, and the knowledge that is presented in the Gita, if somehow or other we can assimilate and apply, we can see a very transforming effect in our life, something beyond our comprehension. I myself have come in contact with the Bhagavad Gita when I was 10 years old. Okay. So ever since then, I have been always fascinated by the message of the Gita. So my initial encounter with the Gita was more of just a pious sort of activity, that reading a verse from the Gita itself is considered to be pious. So I used to read. But then my understanding did not actually happen until I contacted those who are actually practicing the Gita. Because Gita is not a book that you can just read like an academic text. It is something to be read with an understanding that I am part of the experiment that is going on. In other words, it's an experiment that we, if we are willing to conduct as a life experiment, that okay, whatever I'm reading, let me just put it in action and see what happens. So if you don't read with that kind of mindset, then the Gita may not have the full effect in our life. So when this Bhagavad Gita, which contains 700 verses, it was spoken in the middle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It is said that it's spoken in 45 minutes, in a span of 45 minutes. That was pretty, it sounds far out. There was one Indian gentleman who came before Srila Prabhupada and said that actually I can do that in front of you. Recite the entire Bhagavad Gita in 45 minutes. Prabhupada said, very well, you can recite the whole Bhagavad Gita in 45 minutes. Can you live Bhagavad Gita for 45 minutes? That was his challenge. So the person shut down. Because it's not a question of just a memorization of the verses and recitation, but it's a question of how much are we actually living it. So Bhagavad Gita is very special because it is the only literature in the history of mankind where God himself is directly speaking. There's no such thing, in the whole book of knowledge that you may encounter in the world, there is no such book that you will find where God directly is speaking. You may find some messenger of God or some representative of God speaking the message. But Bhagavad Gita is the only text where if you want to encounter God, it's right there because God is personally speaking. And not only God is speaking, but he's speaking in a very personal way. It's not like, okay, I'm just giving you some sermons, you follow or go to hell. It's not like that. It's spoken in a very personal way. Understanding the situation of the student and trying to solve the problems that the student is going through. Therefore, we have to understand that the problems that are presented by the student here, who is Arjuna, they're not any different from the problems that we encounter while we are living in this material world. And therefore, it is relevant regardless of time, place, and circumstance. You understand? So it is not about that this book is coming from a particular religious place, and therefore those who follow those religious traditions, that book is open for them. Otherwise, the book is not there. No, this book is a book of knowledge, regardless of which sect you're coming from, regardless of which part of the world you're coming from, you would benefit. I'll give you a sample from the Gita, like the 13th verse of the 2nd chapter, which talks about our identity. So Krishna is pointing out that our identity is that we are spirit soul and we have nothing to do with the material covering. Covering is something that we have put on, just like a person may put on some gloves in their hands, and when they move their hand, the gloves appear to move. The gloves in themselves, that's lifeless, right? They are lifeless. But because the hand is moving, the gloves seem to have life. So likewise, our body is just made of physical and chemical elements. But because there is soul situated, which is animating consciousness and working through our physical senses, therefore the body seems to have life. You understand this point? So Krishna is saying, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehanta praptir dhirastatana muyati. That everyone is going through the experience of childhood, youth, old age in this life, is it not? Everyone is going through that experience. So then Krishna is very craftfully defining what is death in that verse. So what happens is that you are experiencing change of bodies in this life. Anybody in this room has not experienced change of body? We have experienced change of body. We are experiencing right now. According to biological science, every 7 years, all the cells of our body are completely replenished. Every 7 years. Which means we are a new person. If our evaluation is completely in terms of the body, we are a new person every 7 years. So bodily changes we have experienced. So Krishna is saying, Tatha dehantara prapti dhirastatana muyati. So at the time of death, when the soul moves on to the next body, then that is called death. So is there any flavor of religion in this statement? Do you see any flavor of religion here in this statement? These are just axiomatic principles that Krishna is laying down. So you have to study Bhagavad Gita like axiomatic principles. And they are axiomatic principles, but they are not just theoretical principles, but something that we can take on and apply in our life. And I'm going to show in this presentation what's happening to Arjuna when he is hearing the Gita. So what happens is that in our life, we have encountered that we have imperfect senses. Anybody here not encountered that we have imperfect senses? Anyone? Everyone is familiar with that, right? Just write an exam. So it is said that we have imperfect senses. We have imperfect senses, and therefore what happens is that we are subject to illusion. We have imperfect senses, therefore we are subject to illusion. Illusion means to consider something as right when it is wrong, or considering something as wrong when it is right, or considering something as false when it is true, and vice versa. That's illusion. So because we have imperfect senses, we are subject to illusion. And because we are subject to illusion, therefore we are prone to committing mistakes. So all these are great. Great in the sense that we are familiar with, right? That we have imperfect senses, we are subject to illusion, and we commit mistakes. Nothing we can do about it. That's just reality we have to accept, correct? But the fourth one that comes in is the cheating propensity. You understand? So every human being is supposed to have these four defects: imperfect senses, subjectivity to illusion, susceptibility to making mistakes, and cheating propensity. So this last one we have in control. You understand? This last one we have in control. We can still decide to not cheat. First of all, cheat ourselves and cheat others. So Bhagavad Gita begins at the point where Arjuna demonstrated this quality, that he was suffering from miserly weakness of heart, but he demonstrated the quality of self-honesty, and because of which he became a fit recipient for the Bhagavad Gita. So in order to approach the Bhagavad Gita, we have to approach from an honest platform. We have to really not put ourselves into some high-flying level, but really be aware of our ground reality. That right now, if somebody says something against us, I become angry. When I come in contact with an object of pleasure, I become attached. When somebody is, doing very well, I become envious of that person. You understand? Are you able to resonate with these things? When we acknowledge that these are the kind of weaknesses of the heart that I'm suffering from, then we are fit recipient of Bhagavad Gita. We are not trying to make a pretense here, So Bhagavad Gita begins here, where I didn't get much time to put the slides properly. I could have animated, I could have made it a little more fancy. Just half an hour before coming here, I just put them together. So there will be a lot of discrepancy. So what happens is that in the beginning, Arjuna orders Krishna, that Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapaya Me Achyuta, that please place my chariot in between the two armies. Why? Because Arjuna was in the middle of the battlefield. He was about to fight the battle of justice. And Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, God himself, was serving Arjuna as his chariot driver. Can you believe it? God himself was serving Arjuna as his chariot driver. There was a great saint, as well as a manifestation of God. His name is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 500 years ago, he was traveling to southern part of India, and he reached a temple in South India, and he found that there was a very simple person who was studying the Gita. He had a book open before him, and the pages of the book, they were drenched with tears from his eyes. And this Lord Chaitanya, he found out from others that actually that person is illiterate. And so he approached this person, that others are saying that you are illiterate, and I find that you are crying tears while you are reading the Bhagavad Gita. What's going on? So he said that they are right, I'm illiterate. But I have got instruction from my teacher that please study Gita regularly. So in order to follow that advice, I'm every day opening the pages of the book. And when I'm opening the pages of the book, I'm finding this picture. And that picture on that book is that Krishna is driving the chariot of Arjuna. He said that when I think about that scene, that Krishna, from whom everything originated, everything came into being, that person is taking such a humble position. So that thought of kindness with which Krishna is acting in relation to Arjuna is bringing tears to my eyes. So Sri Chaitanya congratulated this person that your understanding of the Gita is perfect because you actually connected with the kindness of the Supreme Lord, that he can get down to any position to serve his own devotee. Understand? So here, Arjuna in the beginning of the Gita, he is ordering Krishna, please take my chariot, because he's the chariot driver. So Arjuna was in the position of order giver in the beginning of the Gita. And then when Krishna plays the chariot, then Krishna says that Pashya etan kurun iti, means just observe the enemies who have assembled. Actually, he didn't use the term enemies. He said Pashyan etan kurun iti. Kurus means those who are relatives of Arjuna. Now, this is a battle of justice. There's a lot of story behind how they ended up in that battlefield, like how Arjuna and the other brothers and supporters, they happened to be in the middle of the battlefield. But the point is that Arjuna was fighting on the side of the righteousness, and therefore it is his moral responsibility to fight and somehow or other protect others from getting harmed. That was Arjuna's position. But when he saw his own family members, his own friends, his stepbrothers and so on and so forth, they're all there, So then what happened was that Arjuna took a pause. He said, what am I going to do? I'm going to fight these people with whom I have grown up with. I have to fight with my teacher, with my grandfather. All these figures were in front of Arjuna. So he declares to Krishna, I shall not fight. So by the same time, Arjuna was not sure. So he says that Karpanya dosha bhuta swabhava prichami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. That I am actually suffering from miserly weakness of heart, because of which I am totally bewildered. I don't know, what am I supposed to do? Should I fight or not fight? So please try to carefully note these qualities with which Arjuna was acting. He was the order giver. He was vacillating in terms of his decision, whether to fight or not fight, he was not sure. And he was suffering from miserly weakness of the heart, and he was in a bewildered condition. Are you able to resonate with any of these feelings? Yes or no?
Yes.
Anybody not able to resonate with these feelings? We are always subjected to so many situations in our life that we have to make proper decisions on a daily basis. And we don't know how to actually properly act. So, good thing about Arjuna is that, yes, he was suffering from miserly weakness of the heart. He was bewildered. He was not able to make decision. All of these are true. But one thing that actually kept Arjuna's position very strong was that he had an openness of the heart. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says a very beautiful thing. He says that if you have weakness of the heart, no problem. But if you have cheating mentality, there is a big problem. Weakness of the heart is not a problem, but if you have cheating propensity and cheating mentality, you cannot actually go forward. So here Arjuna, with openness of the heart, he demonstrated that he was not ready to just hide his emotions. He was very openly sharing with Krishna that ve patusta sharire me roma harshascha jayate gandiva shranchate hastat tvak chaiva paridhyate. He was explaining his position that my gandiva, my bow, is slipping from my hands. Now, who is Arjuna? Arjuna was the best student at that time. Just think about MIT, because we are in the proximity of a major technological institution. So think about something better than MIT. So Arjuna was the greatest student of the greatest university that was available for education at that time. He was known as Dhananjaya, which means at ease he can amass wealth. He has so much of prowess. He can fight with both hands. He is known as Sabyasachi, which means one who is ambidextrous. He has all the qualities that are necessary to be successful in this world. What we look for success, Arjuna had them all. Think about his wives. He had 4 wives. All of them are in the caliber of Miss Universes. You understand? So in terms of material accomplishment, he got them all. And yet in the beginning of the battlefield, he was suffering from miserly weakness of the heart. But Arjuna was not like, okay, I am a great great warrior. Why should I place myself in this weak manner? Arjuna was not like that. He was very open. He was openly telling Krishna, my skin is burning. This bow, with which I can valiantly fight, it's just kind of slipping out of my hands. I'm not able to maintain myself. My mind is not in composure. I don't know what to do. So he was completely dependent on Krishna. So two things were happening for Arjuna. His heart was completely open before Krishna, and he himself was dependent. He was positioning himself completely dependent on Krishna. So in our life, likewise, even if we have one person with whom we can confidently share our heart, you understand? Even if one person we have with whom we can openly share our heart, then our position is very strong. You understand? Because within that relationship, Krishna manifests his full potency of his mercy. So this is what is demonstrated in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. And then in that mode, what did Arjuna say? That yes, I'm totally bewildered about my duty. And therefore, what do? Arjuna placed himself before Krishna. That Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. That please accept me as your student and please correct me, please instruct me. I am a soul surrendered at your lotus feet. That is the point when Krishna starts speaking Bhagavad Gita. And then when Krishna spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita, how did Bhagavad Gita end up in? So what happened to Arjuna at the end of the Bhagavad Gita? Anybody knows here? What does Arjuna say at the end of the Bhagavad Gita?
All his doubts have been dispelled, and he is now ready to fight.
Excellent. Okay. So that is, these are two of the things that he said. So what are the overall things that he said? That Nashta Moha, my illusion is gone. Nashta Moha. And then Nashta Moha. Jai Shri Radha Gopi Vallabha. Nashta Moha and Vritir Labha. Tvat Prasadaya. No, Tvaya Achyuta. So he is saying that by your mercy, Krishna, I have regained my memory and my illusion got dispelled. And then he says that Sthito Asmi, I am now fixed. I am no longer hesitant. In the beginning, his position was vacillating, not sure what to do. Sthito Asmi. Gata Sandeha, all the confusions are gone. Gata Sandeha. And then he says, Karishye Vachanam Tava. I am now ready to follow all your instructions. So Arjuna's illusion was dispelled. He regained his memory. And he is very openly giving credit to Krishna by your grace, by your mercy. Tvat Prasada. And then he says that I am now ready to just follow whatever you have said. So our reading of the Bhagavad Gita is successful when these things are happening for us. You understand? This is the litmus test of our reading of the Bhagavad Gita. Are we becoming free from illusion? What do you think is this memory? What does it mean by regaining memory? Any ideas? Yes.
I was going to ask you that. But I was thinking, is it regain the memory as in we sort of regain the thing that we are the soul, not the body, and that whole
say it like that. Yeah, you can say it like that. You can connect with 2.62 and 63 to understand regaining memory. So 2.62 and 63, what does Krishna say? He talks about the 8th stage of fall down. Correct? How does that happen? Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa. Right? Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa. Sangas Teshu Pajayate. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Kamat Krodho Vijayate. Krodhat Bhavati Samoha. Samohat Smriti Vibhrama. Smriti Bhangshat Buddhi Nasha Buddhi Nashat Pranashat. The Smriti Bhangshat came in that sequence. Okay. So here Smriti is back, which means the regaining of Arjuna's relationship with Krishna, understanding of his eternal relationship with Krishna has come back now. So that's why I wanted you to understand, in the beginning, Arjuna was an order giver. In the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he was an order carrier. You see the change? And in both the situations, the same word is used. Arjuna, he orders Krishna that Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapaya Me Achyuta. Achyuta means infallible. Same thing that he says in the end, So there also Achyuta. Tvaya Achyuta, Smriti Labdha Tvaya Achyuta, because of your mercy. So you get the setup. So this is basically complete malleability in the hands of Krishna is the result of our successfully reading the Bhagavad Gita. If you have read the Bhagavad Gita, then we should be ready to then carry out the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. So then what are the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita? You want to know what are the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita? I want to summarize today the whole of Bhagavad Gita in the next 15 minutes. Okay, that's my goal. So before I do that, I want to ask you, any volunteers, do you want to share what is your understanding of the, before I show the slide, next slide. What is your understanding of the essence of the Bhagavad Gita? Anybody who has read? Yes.
You're not this body, you're a spirit soul.
Okay.
And our constitutional position is we're servants of God, and we should just try to surrender to Him and serve Him.
Okay. Very good.
In loving devotion.
Yeah, very good. Any other? Any other way anyone would like to express?
How to navigate in this world.
Very good.
Material living, spiritual living.
Very good. Excellent. How to navigate in this world so that you are mindful of your relationship with Krishna. Okay. Now, here are the 3 points. Okay, you're going to see throughout the Bhagavad Gita. Number 1 point, okay, is answering the question, who is God? Krishna is very frankly and openly, without any problem, he's pointing out, I am God. He's saying, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can I take a little bit of test for you? Can you tell me which verse of Bhagavad Gita says that Krishna is God? Huh?
The last 18.
But which verse? Anyone? It's a very important question. When we are coming before anybody and we are saying Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, we need to have something to say. Why? Why Krishna is God? All right, I'm going to show you. Don't worry. Okay. So the first message is that if you're looking for what is the ultimate truth, ultimate reality, so everything culminates in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He is therefore the Supreme Controller and the dearmost friend. Okay.
Can we use the chapter 10 where it talks about all his opulences to extrapolate from that?
No, I don't want extrapolation. I want a direct statement on this, that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, we can extrapolate many verses,
Is it in chapter 16?
Which verse?
I can't remember.
No, you have to give me the exact verse. No. Now, today we are discussing the day after Gita Jayanti. We have to be very precise. We have gone through the recitation of Bhagavad Gita yesterday. Yes.
Don't too superior to me, everything rests upon me, like strong on us, right?
Okay, that's a very good verse. Yeah, 7.7. Yeah. But there Krishna is saying, Matta Parataram Nanya Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. Okay, so there Krishna is saying there is no truth superior to me. I'm looking for a verse where Krishna is saying, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You understand? I want a direct verse on this.
1866.
Okay.
Sarva Dharman Paityasya.
Yeah, Krishna is asking for please surrender unto me. Krishna has already spoken the Bhagavad Gita. Ask, okay, surrender unto me alone. You want to share? Yes.
14
Yeah, 1427 is a good one that you picked. With Brahmano hi pratishtha aham. So there Krishna is saying that I am superior to Brahman. That's a very good words to remember. But still, I'm looking for still a direct statement. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, you can keep looking. If you're able to find, let me know. Okay, so the first point is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means that he is the supreme controller, and at the same time he is the dearmost friend. That's a very important thing. You understand? So that's the number one teaching of the Gita. Second, okay, Krishna is God, so what? What's the okay, you are God. What am I supposed to do? So the second point is very important, that we are actually eternally parts and parcels of Krishna. And therefore, we share a natural, loving relationship with Krishna. And therefore, it is a natural conclusion that we need to act in that relationship. And the corollary of that is that nothing in this world will ever satisfy us if we forget that natural connection and independently try to be happy. This is kind of similar to the point that you have mentioned. This is the point number 2. Point number 3 is that act of loving devotional service must be exclusive. Because our connection with Krishna is direct and exclusive. We do not have direct connection with anybody. We are parts and parcels of Krishna. And therefore, that natural connection is something that is very unique. And I am going to show you every chapter of the Gita delivers this overall essence message. Okay, that's my rest of the presentation. Okay, are you ready? Okay, and in them, one of the verses is going to be the answer to my first question. Okay, so be alert. Okay, so Krishna. Okay, before we go there, I want to stress another very important point. So why this kind of relationship between living entity and Krishna can reach such a point where we can derive our most natural satisfaction from there? And why is this relationship supposed to work? There are 2 qualities on the part of Krishna and the 2 qualities on the part of us that can make this relationship, this loving relationship, completely successful. On the part of the Supreme Lord, please understand, Krishna has 2 qualities. One is Shakti and the second is Saralata. Shakti means he has power. He is supremely powerful. And because he is supremely powerful, he can also be supremely simple. Simple means you can go to Krishna under any condition of your life and say, I surrender. And Krishna is ready to accept it. That is his simplicity. You understand? We cannot do that. We cannot be that person for anybody. We cannot be that simple that we are ready to accept anybody. It doesn't matter what kind of blunder you do. Are you ready to accept anybody like that? Those who are going to office, have some reports, just think about it. Doesn't matter what you do. I'm accepting you unconditionally. That only Krishna can do. Why? Because we are not supremely powerful either. Because Krishna is supremely powerful, he can be unlimitedly simple in his heart to accept anybody. You understand? That is Krishna's position. And on the part of the living entity, that relationship becomes successful when they have 2 qualities. One is that they approach Krishna with no other material shelter. That I don't have any other place to go to, only you. You understand? And second is that I even do not have any other spiritual shelter. One may have different notions of the place of shelter, and then one may go here, one may go there to become more and more spiritual. Krishna says, even then, ananya gatitvam, you have no other gati except for me. And akinchanatvam, you have no other material shelter. Only me. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked this question, Prabhupada, what is humility? Prabhupada answered it very beautifully. He said that humility of the heart you will have when you recognize that I may go to this place for shelter, let's say my job. I may go to this relative for shelter, some powerful relative with a lot of position and influence. I may go to my friends and relatives. Doesn't matter where I go. if I'm convinced that no matter where I go for shelter, actually they are going to fail me. My only shelter is Krishna. So once one has solidly come to that conclusion that the only place where I can exert my full dependency on is Krishna, then you have learned the lesson of humility. So you understand why this relationship is supposed to work. That's what I wanted to show you here. Is it clear, this point? So two qualities on the part of Krishna. He has power, and he has that simplicity of accepting us in any condition of life. And from our side, we can make that relationship work only when we are ready to give up all our material and spiritual shelters and ready to approach him with that exclusive mood of shelter. All right, chapter 2. So chapter 1 is all Arjuna's confusion, and chapter 2 is when that verse Arjuna speaks that please accept me as your student and help me out. So chapter 2, Krishna reveals the secret for controlling the senses. Anybody here wants to control their senses? Yes? Nobody else? You're fine. Like most of the sufferings in this world is because our senses are driving us crazy. Believe it or not. Most of the time is the senses which are driving us crazy. So who doesn't want to become a controller of the senses? And Krishna in the second chapter is giving that formula how you can control over the senses. The secret of controlling is that tani sarvani sayamya yukta asita matparaha. This yukta asita matparaha. When your consciousness is completely fixed on me, see this one of the essence messages right in the second chapter. And then vashehi yasya indriyani tasya pragya pratishthata. Then your senses will be under your control and your intelligence will be fixed. When you are able to do what? Engage your consciousness upon Krishna. Fix your consciousness upon Krishna. Yukta asita mat paraha. This is the first reference from Krishna's side that please engage in loving relationship with me. Okay. Third chapter, a direct instruction from Krishna to engage in bhakti. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirasha nirmama bhutva yudhyasva vigata jora. So here Krishna is saying that you surrender all your work unto me. So to dedicate our life to Krishna in loving relationship doesn't mean giving up things. It means to integrate whatever we are doing in relation to Krishna. In other words, what needs to change is not the activities necessarily. What needs to change is the consciousness behind the activity. Before I do, I dedicate that this, Krishna, this is for your pleasure. The moment we bring this switch in the consciousness, then we are practicing bhakti. So practicing bhakti is the simplest possible thing that one can do. Because all we want to do is bring about a switch in our consciousness. We are not saying that, okay, leave tomorrow your job and go to Himalayas. Only then you can practice bhakti. In fact, Arjuna wanted to leave the battlefield. Krishna is saying, no, you stay. You stay and fix your consciousness. So the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken to fix the consciousness of Arjuna. It is not to change his occupation. You understand? So likewise, the message is very clear that direct instruction is that please engage or act in your loving relationship with me. That's verse number 30 from the third chapter. Fourth chapter, Krishna points out that in order to do that effectively, you need a guide. The tadviti pranipadena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnaniyas tattvadarshina. You need a guide. And guide means a living guide, someone who is ready to instruct you, correct you. That means you are needing to face your false ego. I mean, we always carry this big mountain. What is that mountain? The mountain of our ego. We all have our mountain that we carry. But we have to face that ultimately, in order to really take advantage of the Bhagavad Gita, we need to receive with humility and gratitude and be ready to give with courage. That's the effect of the Bhagavad Gita. So here, Krishna is pointing out, in order to do this effectively, you need to submissively approach a bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him. And they will be very kind enough to further guide you by giving you proper knowledge. So this is how you can actually make that happen. And then Krishna is saying that, okay, there is a great peace formula that you can put in your pocket and live by that. What is that peace formula? That if you know in all circumstances of your life that I am the actual beneficiary of all your sacrifices and activities. Secondly, I am the supreme controller. I am the beneficiary, I am the supreme controller. And at the same time, I am your well-wishing friend. If you know these facts all the time, then what's going to happen? You will attain peace from all pangs of material existence. So those who care about peace, this is the verse that you can actually meditate upon. So here, again, a person in full consciousness of me. Please note the first line. Okay. Sixth chapter, Krishna is pointing out that bhakti that I propose in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is not just a method. No, it is the highest form of yoga. Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatena antaratmana shraddhavam bhajate yomam samay yukta tamo mataha. Yukta tamo mata means if you are caring about yoga, which means to connect with me, then know that connecting with love and devotion or bhakti is the highest form of yoga. And that's what I'm recommending. Please note that by this time, Krishna had already introduced Karma Yoga. Krishna had already introduced Jnana Yoga. Krishna had already introduced Dhyan Yoga. All these yoga had already been introduced. And then Krishna is pointing out that please note that out of all the forms of yoga, Bhakti Yoga is the highest. And therefore practice Bhakti Yoga. Sixth chapter concluded like that. And then Krishna is pointing out that, okay, it's not going to be easy. Why? Because you are living within the matrix. In other words, there is Maya everywhere. There is Maya. There is going to attack you. It's going to allure you. And it's going to challenge you. And it's going to make you forget your eternal relationship with Krishna. And therefore, you have to be alert. But I'm also giving you a way so that you can go and surpass this Maya, which is otherwise insurmountable. The Daivi Yesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. This illusion, this network of illusion that is surrounding us, which is constantly moving us in the direction of forgetting Krishna, forgetting our eternal spiritual position. It's always acting upon us. So how can we surmount this? Krishna is saying, Mam eva ye prapadyante. So here the point about exclusivity comes. Krishna is saying, one who has surrendered to me alone. Please note that term. It's not, Krishna is not just saying Mam ye prapadyante. Krishna is saying Mam eva means me alone. Okay, so one who surrenders unto Krishna alone, they can cross over Maya. 8th chapter, Krishna is pointing out that, okay, it is not just sufficient to say, okay, once upon a time, I thought about Krishna, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, mam anusmara yudhyacha. You have to carry on your prescribed duties and at the same time, always remember me. And if you are able to do that, this is the mission statement. What's going to happen? We'll go back to Krishna. Mai apita manobuddhir, then Mam eveshasi asanshaya. Krishna is giving assurance that you will come back to me in the spiritual abode. Don't just rot in this material world. Come back to me and enjoy life of eternal happiness in the spiritual abode. So therefore, the process for executing bhakti is always think of me while you are engaged practically. So what are the practical ways of thinking about Krishna? So Krishna lays that down in the 9th chapter, 34th verse. That manmana bhavamat bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame Vaishyasi, Yuktvevam. Again, Mame Vaishyasi appearing, which is basically Krishna is defining the mission statement of the Bhagavad Gita, is to go back to the spiritual abode. That's the goal of life. And then, in this way, so what are the 4 things that Krishna recommended? So, always think of me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances unto me, and worship me. With these 4 activities, you will always remain connected with me. And in this way, you can secure your ticket back to the spiritual abode. And then Krishna saying that don't worry, I'm going to help you. How I'm going to help you? Tesham satata yuktanam. In this way, when you are engaged, bhajatam priti purvakam, when you are engaged in the process of bhakti, dadami buddhi yogam tam. I'm going to give you intelligence from within so that you can come back to me step by step without any problem. I'm going to help you. That assurance Krishna gives in the 10th chapter. 11th chapter, Krishna is pointing out that all you have to become is simply an instrument in my hands. It's not that you try to become, like controller and master of things just because you are practicing bhakti. No, you have to just act as my tiny instrument. In other words, always align with my instructions so that you can actually manifest my compassion in this world. So here the phrase here is nimitta matram bhava savya sachin. So Krishna wants Arjuna to fight and win all the glory. Krishna wants Arjuna to conquer his enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. You see how many well wishes Krishna is giving here? And Krishna is saying they are already put to death by my arrangement. Don't worry, they're already killed. All you have to do is that you have to become an instrument in my hands. So think like that. In your life also, things have already happened. It's not that you're going to do a big deal by working very hard, Things have already happened. It's just you have to become an instrument in Krishna's hands. That's the right way of approaching that relationship with Krishna. And then Krishna in 12th chapter is giving a secret of how you can live in the thoughts of Krishna exclusively all the time. So he's saying, Mai eva mana adhatsva, mai buddhim niveshaya. Niveshasya, mai eva. So nivasishyasi. Ata urdhvam na sanshaya. So Krishna is saying that you just fix your mind upon me. And again, here, please note, mai eva. Please note, mai eva means me alone. Exclusivity comes into picture. And engage all your intelligence in me. In this way, you can always live in me alone, without a doubt. 13th chapter, Krishna is pointing out, don't worry, I also have a manifestation of me sitting within your own heart. That in this body, there is another soul, which is the super soul, which is going to be there to help you during your journey in this material world. So don't think that you're alone. And that person is always going to be acting as the overseer and the permitter. And that personality is known as the super soul. The super soul is nothing but Krishna's manifestation. And then one may say that, okay, by the way, this world is very, very complicated. I'm always moved around, tossed around by the modes of material nature. Sometimes I'm covered over by goodness, sometimes by passion, and sometimes by ignorance. Actually, most of the time, I'm covered over by passion and ignorance. Please help me out. How can I come over? So Krishna is giving this formula in the 14th chapter, that Mam Chayo Abhyavicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate. Sagunam Samatitetan Brahma Bhuvaya Kalpate. So how you can come over the modes of material nature? Again, by engaging in full devotional service. In fact, unalloyed devotional service. Abhyavicharani Bhakti means pure devotional service. That's how you come about. Then comes this 15th chapter verse, okay, where Krishna is saying, Yo mam evam asamudho janati purushottama sa sarvavit bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Do you see something here? So Krishna is saying, one who knows me without a doubt, knows me as what? Purusha Uttama, as the supreme personality of Godhead. Then that person is what? Sarvavit. Sarvavit means that person knows everything. And what is the result of knowing everything? Bhajati Mam. That person is going to engage in my devotional service with bhava, with full emotions, Sarva Bhavena Bharata. In my opinion, this is the verse that you should be quoting. When somebody asks, where is the proof that Krishna is the supreme personality of God? This is the verse you should quote. 16th verse, Krishna is pointing out that you need to be aligned with the scriptures. That's how you're going to please me. It's not just a hallucinated idea that I'm going to please Krishna. How are you going to act in relationship with Krishna? By remaining aligned with the scriptures. Krishna is saying, Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Akarya Vyavastitav Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Iharasi. That you have to know what is to be done, what is not to be done with the help of the scriptures. And in this way, you can be aligned with my instructions and always be dedicated to serving me in that way. Now, a very important thing is that the faith is a very important component in order to bring success within bhakti. Because bhakti is such that you will never see the end result. There will always be a gap. And because there will always be a gap, we need to accept certain things without having fully experienced it. And that is called faith. So Krishna is saying, Ashraddhaya Utam Dattam Tapas Taptam Kritam Chayat Asat iti Uchyate Partha Nachatat Pretya no Iha. anything done, whether it is sacrifice, charity, or penance, without faith in the Supreme, if you do not carry faith in that Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that is impermanent or asar. And therefore, it is useless both in this life and the next. And therefore, you need to have that faith and confidence that Krishna indeed is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And indeed, I have a relationship with the Supreme Lord in terms of loving relationship eternally. And therefore, I need to act in that capacity. And then finally, Krishna is pointing out that Mat Chitta Sarva Durgani, Mat Prasada Tarishyasi, Achit Tvam Ahankaram Na Shoshyasi Viramshasi. So those who are readers of the Bhagavad Gita, please pay special attention to this verse, where Krishna is saying that if you in this way become conscious of me, Krishna has already given so many instructions how to become conscious of him, you will surpass all the obstacles in your life. How? By my grace. In other words, we are going to be fully dependent on Krishna at every step in our life. And then in this way, you will be fully successful. However, on the contrary, if you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. You understand? This covers both the angles. And therefore, we should take the Gita's message very, very seriously, especially paying attention to this. And therefore, success depends on our following the instructions and receiving Krishna's grace. And just to let you know, this is just a survey I did, that Krishna refers to himself in first person singular in so many different ways. So there are 226 references to himself. Krishna pointing out how he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how we should be surrendering unto him. So it's no joke, like out of 700 verses, 226 verses, Krishna is talking about just those 3 points that I mentioned. And therefore, those are the cardinal teachings and the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So what are the essence? Can you summarize, anybody? Number 1,
He is the supreme.
Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Number 2, we are parts and parcels of Krishna. We have a relationship of love with Krishna. And therefore, we should act in that relationship. How we can act? Through process of Bhakti Yoga. But that acting in that relationship with Krishna, the third point is, it should be exclusive. It cannot be something here, something there. Ankityanatvam and Ananyagatitvam, without any material or spiritual shelter. Completely dedicated to Krishna alone. Then only we will be successful. Thank you very much. Any question? Now get up and do Aarti.